Morning, everyone. I've got a Ford sunroof repair here, and I thought it was a good chance to kind of educate some of you guys on some of the major faults that can and do happen to them pretty often, and just a way for you to know for sure one way or the other. What we have here is we have the newer model F-150 with the panoramic sunroof, and these are still used in all of their trucks today. F-150s, F-250s, Raptors. And they all have the same two issues that always happen to them. So 95% of the time what happens is the plastic along here starts to crack and degrade, or this back piece will break off and clog. And so that's what happens when you go to close your sunroof and it stops, or it opens automatically. It's a safety feature. Or it just kind of closes and moves back and forth really rough. Because he's hitting this broken plastic and just making it inoperable. It will, if you go to open it and then it quickly closes, it's usually because something like this has broken off, and it's a safety feature just to protect you if it thinks that something's caught in there. Now that happens probably 95% of the time. The parts are readily available. Enough videos on YouTube, you probably could tackle it yourself. The only warning I would have for you is that this sunroof is pretty sensitive in terms of if you don't have everything lined up perfectly, it can do more damage. So I would just say be very careful and make sure that everything is lined up before you try and open and close it. Now the other major failure point is this piece right there. This piece is what's connected to the cable in the very back. And when that starts to get loose like this, that's when it's really bad. This happens maybe 5% of the time. You can find this piece with the cable on like Amazon or eBay probably. I've never installed those. I don't necessarily trust the quality. But Ford in themselves will not just sell you this piece with the cable. You have to buy the entire sunroof frame and replace it, which I get the understanding behind it, because once you replace the cables, you're messing with the timing and everything, and there's a good chance of things going wrong. So if this has happened to your truck, give us a call or give a professional a call. That's going to be a far more in-depth repair, especially if you're just going to go with aftermarket cable pieces, because then you have to disassemble the entire sunroof, and you kind of have to know a little bit more about what you're doing. The other repair is a little bit more straightforward, but you do have to be careful, like I said, because if you turn it on and things aren't aligned properly, things can break. And the parts are relatively inexpensive, but you also have parts like this. This is your drain trough, and this actually connects down here on both sides. And if something is misaligned, you can break this so easily. And this silly piece of plastic is like 400 bucks. So you definitely don't want to do that. For one, I'm all about people, trying to fix things themselves, learning and trying things for themselves. Totally support that. But if you don't feel comfortable, we have plenty of experience fixing these sunroofs, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. And I guarantee we're going to be a lot cheaper than a dealership. Well, that escalated fast. Something else you might find interesting for those of you that do have a sunroof. In every sunroof on each corner, there's a little rubber hose that's meant to drain the water, because they're designed to take on water. It's inevitable. So if you ever find your headliner is wet for some reason, oftentimes these hoses will get plugged up with dirt, debris if you're parking under trees. So your best bet before anything is to check at each corner, kind of pour some water in there and see if it drains out or not. And if not, then it's probably plugged, and that's going to be your problem. And if you get something long and skinny, you can kind of poke in there and try and clean up the debris. That's a pretty common thing that happens to most sunroofs. And just like that, the sunroof is out. So this is the actual sunroof frame that Ford wants to sell you to do this repair. You have to take out the rear glass, front glass, this metal support. This is the $400 drain trough that breaks very easily. These are the cables that we're replacing, and these are the parts that normally break. And that's not too bad of a repair. You don't have to do all of this. So it's not hard, but it's certainly very involved. Here's an example of what it should look like. You can see that the cable is directly attached to it. And this cable, when the motors turn on, that's what moves ultimately everything forward and back. And then this part right here is what fits into this portion. So this is what moves. This is actually just gets dragged along for the ride. But you can see what happens here is where it connects, it breaks and shatters because you've got, you know, a plastic piece underneath these huge pieces of glass, getting hot, getting cold. Those heat cycles, the plastic expands, extracts, contracts, not extracts. But ultimately, this is what fails. Now, this is a pretty, it's not as common as that. Those tend to fail pretty frequently. But this one happens frequently enough. I'm not exactly sure what causes it. I had a friend with a Raptor 10,000 miles that this happened. His was covered under warranty, thankfully. But so what we'll do now is we'll put in this new cable, which should make all of this work properly again. That's what you like to see. So you can see that's the part that we replaced. And that's what moves back and forth to move the rails, and the glass attaches to this. So these aftermarket cables definitely seem like an option, but I will notice that this part that slides back and forth definitely makes a lot more noise. So I don't know if the material they use is just a little bit different. I know a lot of the tolerances with sunroofs, when you replace parts, they can kind of rub a little bit weird at first and then get better over time, but I don't know. It's definitely better than I thought it was going to be. That's what you want to see. So after any big sunroof repair, or if your battery's been disconnected for some reason, or even if your sunroof is just acting funny, most every sunroof has a reset procedure that just kind of resets the motors in the back just so it knows where it needs to open and close, just kind of knows its parameters. So that's a good first step if your sunroof is acting up in any way. Before you even take it to the dealer, oftentimes just that button procedure can honestly fix most of the problems, unless you hear physical like braking sounds or whatnot. Each car is going to have their own specific kind of procedure. So it's best you can check your manual in your glove box if you still have it, or just hop on Google. There's usually a quick and easy way to find that. For this sunroof, what you have to do is you have to get it in the close position, and then you have to hold the close button. And then what it will do eventually after like 10 seconds or so, so right now the computer is resetting and kind of learning where the parameters are, where to stop, where to start. You just want to keep holding on to that button. And then once you get to that point, now the computer knows where tilt needs to be. If it doesn't act up. and then it knows when and where the sunshade should close. And honestly, that issue, I have that happen so many times, especially on these older ones. When you put new parts on them, it's like you have these new tolerances that aren't totally matched up yet, and over time they start to fit, you know, with the heat and with using the sunroof. It usually fixes itself, but if not, bring it back, and we can take a look at it. Well, that's kind of a little mini walkthrough of just to help you understand what all is entailed in repairing this panoramic sunroof. You see them on so many different Fords. So hopefully you found that a little, you know, interesting. Maybe you learned something. I'm all about helping others to learn and understand their cars better. The more we know, the better we can take care of them, the longer they last. With how expensive cars are, it's important, I think, to know how to work on your cars. You can save yourselves a lot of money and a lot of anxiety. You can cause yourself some anxiety too. And I just think it's important to let people know just what's being done to their cars. Helping them to fully understand that. So if you feel comfortable, by all means, fix it yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, bring it on down to us. Like, we'll take care of it. But either way, I'd like people to make an informed decision so that they know that their money is being spent wisely and in the best way possible. So thanks for watching. Maybe I'll do this again with another broken sunroof if someone wants to bring one in. All right, have a good night.